Hello, my name is Abigail Simenton, and today we are going to be looking at a building called Guggenheim Museum Bilbao and how it relates to the structure Petra Jordan. The Guggenheim Museum Bilbao is a museum of modern and contemporary art designed by Canadian-American architect Frank Gehry and located in Bilbao, Basque Country, Spain. But first, let's talk about Frank Gehry. Frank Gehry was born Frank Owen Goldberg on February 28, 1929 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, to parents Sadie Thelma and Irving Goldberg. His father was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Russian Jewish parents, and his mother was a Polish Jewish immigrant born in Lodz. A creative child, he was encouraged by his grandmother, Leah Kaplan, with whom he would build little cities out of scraps of wood. This sparked something inside Gehry and inspired him to become an architect. Gehry went on to create a multitude of amazing buildings and creations later in his life, including the Cabrillo Marine Aquarium in San Pedro and the California Aerospace Museum in LA, as well as the Chiat Day building in Venice. However, his best-received works include the Walt Disney Concert Hall in downtown Los Angeles and the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain. The 1959 Solomon R. Guggenheim Museum, originally the Museum of Non-Objective Art, with its spiraling concrete ramps, was one of the first museums to challenge this tradition. By the 1980s, it had outgrown its Frank Lloyd Wright-designed Fifth Avenue home in New York, and Thomas Krenz, the museum's director, began developing plans to expand the museum's reach through the establishment of satellite branches funded by foreign governments. Among these projects, the 1997 branch in Bilbao, Spain, had been the most highly regarded. Not only did it provide the Guggenheim with a large exhibition venue for the 20th century and contemporary art, but it shifted the direction of museum design. At this point in his prolific career, Frank Gehry had a number of cultural institutions to his credit and was developing an international reputation for producing consistently innovative work. The Guggenheim Bilbao was also part of an ambitious urban renewal program conceived by the Basque regional government. An aging port and industrious center, the city had entered a period of significant economic decline during the 1980s. Various well-known architects were invited to design new structures, including Santiago Calatrava from Spain and Norman Foster from England. No matter what, comparisons to the Guggenheim Museum in New York would be inevitable. Krenz urged Gehry to make it better, and the Bilbao Museum recalls the earlier building in various subtle ways. From the absence of historical references to the focus on a central atrium, both architects produced unrestrained modern spaces of great architectural force and energy. Gehry had developed a personal aesthetic gradually, discovering exhilarating ways to shatter and reassemble architectural forms. As most architects do, he began with structure's most basic program. After determining the size and shape of the interiors, he melded the forms together, arranging them into a lively sculptural whole. Through his earlier work, sometimes categorized as deconstructivism, featured everyday building materials like chain link, corrugated metal, and plywood. By the late 1980s, Gehry had refined his vision, using more costly surfaces to produce unexpected sensuous designs. Aided by sophisticated computer software, his most daring projects evoke aspects of the Italian Baroque style. Like the drapery folds that animate some pieces of 17th century figurative sculpture, Gehry's more striking works juxtapose elements that bend, ripple, and unfurl. Most photographs depict the Guggenheim Bilbao from across the river. Although this view is arguably the most dramatic and satisfying, the main entrance is on the opposite side of the building, at the foot of a narrow residential street. Arriving visitors cross over concealed railroad tracks and descend through a broad-striped limestone plaza, passing from a slender notch in a soaring 165-foot atrium. A complex and somewhat chaotic interior, this twisting glass and steel volume combines irregularly shaped limestone and plaster walls, glazed elevator shafts, and vertigo-inducing catwalks. The central atrium serves as a hub and orientation gallery, providing access to approximately 20 galleries on 3 separate levels. While the sequence of classic galleries are predictably rectangular, other exhibition spaces have become surprising shapes, with angled or curving walls and occasional balconies. Particularly memorable is this so-called boat gallery. Though Gehry compares the shape to a fish, a recurring motive in his work, this enormous column-free space extends more than 400 feet across the riverfront promenade and beneath the adjoining bridge. Ideal for large works of sculpture, this vast space contains an installation by Richard Serra. The Guggenheim Bilbao opened to the public in 1997. The reception to Gary's unorthodox design was nothing less than ecstatic, drawing international acclaim from fellow architects and critics, as well as tourists who throng here from throughout the world. The benefits to the city's local economy was immediate and substantial, and numerous cities have tried, but not always succeeded, to match its success, commissioning similarly dynamic structures from high-profile artists. Now for Petra, Jordan. Petra was the capital of the Nabatean kingdom for most of its history until the Roman emperor, Trajan, created the province of Arabia in 106 CE, annexed the Nabatean kingdom, and moved the capital of this new province into Basra, in what is today modern southern Syria. The ancient sources inform us that the Nabateans were great traders who controlled the luxury trade in incense during late Hellenistic and early Roman periods. Petra had a large theater, which was probably built during the reign of Aretas IV, as well as a monumental colonnaded street. Important buildings grace both sides of the wadi. On the south side of the street was a nymphaeum, a shrine consecrated to water nymphs, often with a fountain, and a series of monumental spaces, which were once identified as markets. The so-called Lower Market has recently been excavated and shown to be a garden pool complex. This stood adjacent to the so-called Great Temple of Petra. Within the cella, or inner sanctuary room, of the Great Temple, a series of stone seats were discovered. This may suggest that the structure was not a temple, but an audience hall for at least part of its history. The treasury's facade most clearly embodies the Hellenistic style and reflects the influence of Alexandria, the greatest city in the eastern Mediterranean at this time. Its architecture features a broken pediment and central circular buildings on the upper level. This architectural composition originated in Alexandria. Ornate Corinthian columns are used throughout. Above the broken pediments, the bases of two obelisks appear and stretch upwards into the rock. The sculptural decoration also underscores a connection to the Hellenistic world. On the upper level, Amazons and Victories stand, flanking a central female figure who is probably Isis Tyche, the Greek goddess of good fortune. The lower level features the Greek twin gods, Castor and Pollux, the Dioscuri who protect travelers and the dead on their journeys. There are other details from the artistic traditions of the Hellenistic world, including eagles, the symbols of royal Ptolemies, vines, vegetation, and acroteria. And that is it for this video. Now, if you want to learn more about these awesome structures like these, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel. And always, I will see you guys in the next video. Abigail out.